Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so something's coming to mind. I just want to kind of add to this understanding because I'm listening to the pundits talk about the Celtics, um, and they're kind of shooing the Celtics in as a winning team in this series, which is perfectly reasonable because I have the Heat in 7, which means obviously the Celtics can win it. You guys know I'm split down the middle, but I think there's a lot of dismissing of what the Miami Heat bring to this series, and a lot of ignoring of what the Boston Celtics have just got through dealing with. The Boston Celtics just came out of one of the toughest series that we've had in these playoffs. The Bucks gave them all they can handle, and the physicality was ferocious to the point where Marcus Smart is coming into this series hurt and is not going to play tonight more than likely. The Miami Heat, though they haven't been tested because of it, have been well rested. They've beaten teams like Atlanta and, of course, Toronto. Of course, Philadelphia. And, that wasn't as big of a threat to them. So that's my concern about the Heat. Will they be caught off guard by the intensity that the Boston Celtics have been playing so tough and so hard and so well? You know what I mean? Having to go up against a team like that, could it catch them off guard? Could that intensity catch them off guard? And I think it's very possible, which is why I'm a little shaky on my pick of the Miami Heat winning tonight. But ultimately, I think Marcus is going to miss the game. I'm not sure what Time Lord's going to be doing. And I look at all the minutes that Al Horford has been playing, and I know he's a little older now, and I just don't think the best version of Al Horford is ahead of us because of how much he gave to the game in the last series. So they're going to have to try to balance it out and try to keep him rested, which means they're going to be relying more upon Grant Williams and Daniel Tice. And I look at Grant Williams as somebody who, if you've noticed how the Celtics have played, if he doesn't score, they haven't really been winning. It's when he's a scoring player they actually have won these games in these playoffs, if my memory serves me correctly. And so if he's going to have more defensive assignments, for which he will be with the absence of those defensive players, right? And he's going to be relied upon to score as well, because in theory you need him to. And you're going to have the absence of those other guys on top of that, which means he's going to have more minutes, which means you're dealing with fatigue on his end over time. Even though he's a very young player, it's still a human body. You're asking him to do a lot on both sides of the floor. This is the beginning of a long series. You understand what I'm saying? I just think that the Boston Celtics have been beat up already. And I think that the Miami Heat have not. So as to where if the Miami Heat get off to a slow start in this series, I think they're more than likely to catch a tired Celtics team midway through this series, as to which they could probably catch up into the series if they're down. And if they're up, this is a dangerous situation because of that potential fatigue that could possibly be there. So if Miami, for example, were able to get an early game, let's say they win tonight's game, I think that lends itself to my theory that this could be a series that the Miami Heat can win because of all of that I've said. Then you got to think about the fact that players are out of these lineups and now they have to be reincorporated into the lineups, and what that does to your defense, what that does to your continuity. That lends itself to the Miami Heat because they are the next man up type of team. And Boston Celtics also is too. I just look at the Miami Heat of a more so as they have a little more versatility with their players. They use their players at different positions even more so than the Boston Celtics tend to. They lean on their others more than the Boston Celtics do, which also lends itself to the Heat as well. Understand, the Heat can dig into their back pocket and pull up Gabe Vincent and guys that are lower in the bench. Victor Oladipo's back there, well rested. He didn't hardly even play in the last series and had a 40-point game at the end of the season. You think he's not a weapon that's going to be unleashed on the Boston Celtics at random some point in this series? Expect it. These are the type of things that the Heat can do to the Celtics that the Celtics cannot do to them. And that's what I'm trying to get people to understand. They're looking at Jason Tatum, they're looking at Jaylen Brown. I'm like, cool. With the potential of those type of superstars, you can always see one of them go for 50. And they may need to in order to win these games because of the defense that's going to be applied to the others on the Celtics. It's a harder series for Al Horford offensively. It's a harder series for Grant Williams offensively. It's a harder series for Derek White offensively. You understand what I'm saying? Because they're going up against a defense that has more defensive weapons to throw at them than the Bucks did, and more offensive assignments for them to defend than the Bucks had. That's not Grayson Allen over there. That's not who else was on their team? George Hill. Nah. The Heat have quality players in those roles. Unlike the Milwaukee Bucks, who are basically a three-man beat team. The Heat are a two-man team with a bunch of others that can do a bunch of things. And they're bird rights, which means that they're their own homegrown players, which has allowed them to fit even more talent on their cap, which is why they have Victor Oladipo, which is why they have Dwayne Dedmon, which is why they can fit, what's his name, Robinson. Duncan Robinson is $75 million on the cap. Max Strus is there at like $3 million playing a huge role. You need to understand, the Boston Celtics need to have efficiency from Jason Tatum every night in this series in order to win. And he's going to be going up against harder defense than he's been against in these playoffs. What don't people see? I'm not saying the Celtics are automatically losing the series. I'm just saying that the pundits who are telling you that the Heat are to be dismissed in this series are ignoring some things that I am not. They are ignoring some key components. And one of them is how much the Boston Celtics are going to be relying upon an older Al Horford because of the absence of Time Lord in this series against Bam, who doesn't even pay attention to the offensive side of the ball. He's more of a defensive player. How are they going to deal with that? How the heck are they going to deal? How is Al Horford going to respond to Bam after having to deal with Brook Lopez and Giannis? And like, he's going to be worn down, y'all. And they need him not to be because Time Lord ain't out there. So this is a situation where the Boston Celtics can't have another injury. They can't have the bad series from Derek White. You know what I'm saying? For which adequate defense will be on him at all times. This is a situation. Peyton Pritchard needs to continue to shoot well. He's very important in this series. If he has a bad series, it's bad. And mind you this, the Boston Celtics are one of the best defensive, if not the best defensive team in the league. How important is your defense going up against a team that really ain't thinking about scoring to begin with? That's the part that's really interesting to me in regards to this series. People talk about the Miami Heat having trouble scoring. I don't think it's that they have trouble scoring. I think it's that they deliberately punt scoring so that they can defend you. Because if they want to put 130 points on the board at any moment, all they got to do is put Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler on the floor, and they can run the score up at any moment. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a false positive. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. It's a false notion that they can't put up scores, like they can't run the score. It's that they choose not to. They be playing the defensive players when they don't have to. So this is a situation where, like, for example, let's say they put Jimmy and Oladipo on the floor for 40 minutes. Now you got to deal with those two-way players all night long, hounding the hell out of whoever they choose to put them on. That's not accounting for PJ Tucker. That's not accounting for Bam. You understand what I'm saying? That's not accounting for Max. These guys are all playing defense around them. This is a nightmare for the Boston Celtics, who are already tired and beat up, and sometime with their offense. So this is, look, when you break this series down, I'm sure I can tell you all the things the Miami Heat needs to deal with as well. But this was not the angle I wanted to give you because I'm listening to these pundits dismiss the Miami Heat. And they got so many strengths in this series, like a million strengths, including home court advantage and rest, of an abundance of rest that the Celtics have not been afforded. And then you think about the Celtics and what they've had to defend in the series that they've been dealing with, and the contrast of styles that they're going to have to transition their play toward now. It went from stopping some giant monster in Giannis to dealing with a multitude of assassins all over the place. That's what the Heat are. This is not a one-man band. They got a million different dudes that can do a million different things to you, and most of it is being done to you defensively. That good defense with their second unit, good defense with their third unit, good defense with their starting lineup. Multiple players that they can switch around. They take PJ Tucker out. They put Max Strus in. You're still dealing with defensive players throwing bodies at you. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are going to be dealing with it. And Marcus Smart, and Grant Williams are going to have to be efficient. Derek White is going to have to be efficient, and I don't trust him to be at all. And the only saving grace they have is the fact that the Heat don't score. It's the only saving grace they have. That balances that out. So expect those offensive players to struggle on both sides, because the Heat do that by nature. So it is what it is, man. The games will be ugly, but do not let these people tell you that the Boston Celtics are just going to knock this team off and not to think twice about it. That is not what this tells us. That's not what the evidence shows us. That's not at all it. What I truly see is a team like the Boston Celtics, who their best situation here is the intensity that they've been dealing with. That's their calling card. The fact that they've been playing at level 30, having to guard Giannis and KD for the last 2 series, as to where the Heat have been playing at level 10, having to deal with Trae Young and a hobbled Philly team. That's what their saving grace is. If you can come in with a certain intensity that they can't match, you can probably get an early 2-game series lead in this thing and probably knock them off that way. That's what I see there. That's what the Celtics have. You come in, blitz them. Maybe get a blowout tonight, blitz them. You know what I mean? You got to catch them early, because take that home court advantage away from them. Because I'm telling you, if they win their first 2 games at home and they take this thing back to Miami, they're more rested, to Boston, they're more rested than you. They got more depth than you. No, I don't like it. And they play well on the road sometimes. I mean, Miami, do their others shoot well on the road? No, they do not. They shoot terrible on the road. But the defense, it travels. So it's not like you're just automatically going to have great nights just because your stars came home. You see what I'm saying? It's not like you just automatically assume Jason Tatum's going to go for 40. They may very well make him obsolete in Game 4 with the defensive scheme that they may put up on him. From what I understand, that's kind of what they're thinking, is stop him, let anyone else beat them. And if that's the case, they're really in trouble. Because now you need Grant Williams to score. Now you need Derek White to score. Now you need Jaylen Brown to go for 40. You see what I'm saying? You don't want to need that. And I think that's what Miami's going to force him to do. So, look, for those who are picking the Boston Celtics, I'm not mad at you. I'm not. But for those who are picking the Miami Heat, I'm with you. That's what I see. Heat in 7. BDL 44. Thank y'all for watching. I'm out.